Freddie Williams. I get a lot of questions about what sort of materials and supplies that I use, and especially when I was first trying to break in, well, even now, I guess, I like to find out what other professionals are using. And so I figured I'd do a video real quick that showed some of the supplies that I use on a regular basis for commissions and hybrid pages. Here we go. I have this case here that my wife got me online. I think she got it from Dick Blick online, and it's great. It's double fold out, so it has a lot of room for a lot of different art supplies. And as you see, it keeps it pretty well organized. Over the course of a convention, I'll have my supplies all out over the table, but when you first start off, this is a really good way to keep things organized. And I used to keep everything that I'd used for originals in a pencil box, but I found that those were really hard. It was hard for me to find where everything was in the box. So let's see. Although I don't recommend using Sharpies for any professional or finished work, because basically it will bleed out into the page over time. There's a high acid content in the Sharpies. I still keep one for signing glossy covers or something like that. Generally, whenever I'm signing something, though, I do use a paint marker, and I use this is a Pilot, and I want to use a really thin, fine tip. There are the thick tip ones. I have a whole drawer full of those where I mistakenly purchased them, but I'm not even sure where I'd ever use those.
This is a calligraphy marker.
This is made by Atoya. Yeah, I'm probably butchering that, but it's acid-free, which means that it's archive-safe, and I don't use this very often as well. I just use it on whenever I'm wanting an interesting texture, because it has a flat tip, and whenever I'm inking certain areas of a page, it can create an interesting sort of effect that looks similar to a brush, but you don't have to break out your brush. Next, this is for ink washes. I'm not even sure who makes this, but it's I'm sure there's multiple brands, but it's Sketch and Wash. It's for whenever I've been doing a lot of wash stuff on both my professional and commissions recently, and this allows for you to basically sketch into an area that you want the wash to be in, and then you go over it with a water marker brush here. This brush actually has a water handle, like the entire handle is filled with water, and it doesn't leak. It's pretty good. And then you can actually brush directly onto the paper with water, and so the Sketch and Wash will basically liquefy and then give you a cool fade effect. So the two of these together work really well, which is the Sketch and Wash and then the water brush. Let me just keep going down the line here. This is a correction fluid or correction pen. It's called Presto. It's made by Pentel, and I'm pretty sure this is archive safe. I mean, I've been using this brand, let's see, since '94 or something like that. So that's been, quite a while ago. And some of my originals that I still have from back then, this stuff doesn't yellow unless you go over the top of it with a Sharpie. So that's one of the reasons I don't use Sharpies. But it's not a super fine point, but it allows you to get in pretty tight. This is still, a pretty small tip here. I can tell that my autofocus is still focusing on the background, but hopefully you guys can still see what I'm talking about here. All these, the larger items like this and my eraser and my extra ink and pencil sharpener here, I've just used Velcro on the back and then stuck it inside of the case. This does not, the Velcro doesn't come with the case. It's just something that I purchased at a hardware store or something. The Velcro is. This is another correction pen. It's made by Uniball Signo. And this one we actually ordered from Japan. I think they're available now in America without the Japanese writing or whatever. But I think my wife found these for me on Amazon or something. But they do not give as good of coverage for correction as the Presto correction pen, but they do give a much finer tip. So this would be good for use. Sometimes I'll use it like for a design in, like for example, if you use spot black on like someone's gauntlet, on their arm, and then you want to go in and add some design, like some swirl work or maybe a couple of chinks in the armor or something, I would use this. Or also if like I wanted to correct, the shape of someone's eye or something, I would use this just because it's thin. It's really thin tipped. It uses gel. But they tend to run out kind of quick, and you'll eventually get kind of a split line where the gel is not flowing out as well. So I don't use these very often, and when I do, you kind of almost got to trick it or something to get, you got to do a test line, on some scratch paper, and then, to kind of get the gel flowing pretty quickly, and then go from there. Whenever I'm doing larger correction areas, I use this FEWII. I don't even know what it stands for. Freddie Williams. Now, I'm not sure what it stands for. Acrylic Artist Ink. It's white, and you can use, it's liquid enough that you can use a brush or a quill with it. That's for larger areas, or if you're doing, kind of fanciful Scott Williams-esque white detail lines, I would use this with a brush or with a quill. But, for small areas and stuff, the gel pen will work pretty well. And medium areas, the Presto. So these are the types of pens and stuff that I use. I'm not opposed to using microns. I just happen to get into using these Faber-Castell pens and happen to like them quite a bit. I'm positive that Micron or
Prismacolor
has a counterpart for each of these, and they probably even are labeled the same. So feel free to use what you want. This is just what I use. So okay, this is a medium tip, and it's basically about the same thickness as a .7 pencil. So something to keep in mind. Next is brush markers. I keep quite a few of these on hand with me because the tips tend to bleed a bit. But brush markers give you a brush-like tip. So actually these basically replace what I used to use Sharpies for. But these are archive safe, which is good. It used to never bother me before if something was archive safe, but now it does because I've had originals that actually just a couple weeks ago I got some original art back from a writer that I worked with back in '97, and there was areas of the art that were I had used Sharpie markers on or non-archive safe felt tip pens, and they had bled and faded really bad, and it drove home. It kind of put an exclamation point on that you should look for archive safe materials. But ultimately it is your choice. If you end up deciding to use Sharpie markers and laundry markers, if it gives you the result that you want, just know that over time that those things are going to bleed and fade. But it's still your choice. I mean, do whatever you want. And they can also, when they're brand new, when you first get them out, then they can give you a really pretty line. But after just a little bit of use, at least in my experience, probably because I'm heavy-handed, then you end up just using them to fill in big shadows, big black areas. Oh, and something that one of my artist friends showed me that I never knew before, let me see if I can get this in here, is you can actually, to double the life of your marker, your brush marker, you can pull out the tip. You can see I'm extending the tip. It's a little bit messy. And there's a tip on the other side. I never knew this. I've been using these for probably 4 years when my friend, another artist who was visiting the studio, showed this to me, and I was surprised and impressed by that. So you pull that out. So I just turned that around if you guys didn't. Hopefully you saw that. And now I'm inserting the old rough tip back into the pen, and now I've got a brand new tip on there. I can tell that's blurry, but hopefully you know what I'm saying here. I have no idea if you're supposed to use your fingers. I'm assuming so. It didn't come with any sort of changing grabber or something. So the tips can be switched out on on every one of the pins, meaning that not just the brush markers, but even on the mediums and even the small and extra small. Though I've never, on the small and the extra small, I've never tried it on those because the tip is so small. It just, this is maybe an assumption on my part, but it just feels like as soon as you would try to grab a hold of them, they'd probably crumple, but because they are felt tip. So I don't know. And on a side note, magic erasers are really good to clean up India ink, and I splash India ink unintentionally quite often all over my drafting table, which is over here, and also all over the fold-out tables, which is what I'm on right now. These are archive safe for the according to their website, even though it doesn't actually say it on the pin itself. This is extra fine V5. I like these because the tip that they have on them are they're metal. It's like, well, let me clean that off a little bit. And you can press pretty hard to get a good line on it. Let me see. Hopefully that'll focus in. But I'm heavy-handed, so any tool that can kind of stand up to my heavy-handedness is something that I like. These are actually pretty close in size to the mediums that I already showed. But these tend, the V5s tend to draw a lot faster. Like whenever I'm drawing with the M, I don't know, it's because you guys probably can't see that very well, but it's a little bit of a broken up line. I like these to do contour lines around people's, figures, the M's, but when it comes to most of my other structure lines, then I use the V5s. They also have like a real dense, kind of shiny black ink, and I like the feel of that too. And since I'm drawing on paper, let me go over the paper real quick. Most of the guys who are working at DC just use their DC artboard, which is what I'm using here. But I have ordered my own paper like this, larger size that I could draw on. So I'm pretty sure I know the type. So it's Strathmore 3-ply 500 series. And this is you can call it cold press, or they also call it vellum finish. It has a little bit of a tooth to it. It's like the uncoated sort of stock that has a little bit of a rougher feel to it. The hot finish has a more glossy feel, which it's all just preference or whatever. I just like the rougher feel to it.